Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm here today with Nathan Crowley, the seven-time Oscar-nominated production designer from the blockbuster hit Wicked. Nathan, it seems like designing such a visually rich film as Wicked would be a particular challenge. Even as such a veteran of this job, is there any moment going in where you might have been a little intimidated by the task before you?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think this is probably the largest film I've ever made. I mean, it was two films, but each film were they're very large. So yeah, the biggest challenge I think I've had probably in my career. It definitely equals some other challenges. On top of that, we have the history of Wicked and we have the history of Oz. So these are juggernauts that needed to come together. So I think there was a certain level in intimidation by those elements. But my method is you go in slowly and you pick off one thing at a time until it all comes together.
Yeah, I was going to say though, an amazing opportunity to have a chance to put your design stamp on a feature, spun from the 1939 film that we've all seen, what, 30, 40 times, um, every year when we were kids.
Yeah.
And an acclaimed Broadway play. It's like, wow, to be able to do that, to have that before you, what an amazing, what
I,
an honor, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was honored to get hired on this job. I mean, I think I've been looking for a new challenge. I think a lot of us, a lot of design, as you get older as a designer, you're looking to take on, subject matter you haven't tackled before. You're looking to push yourself. I'm looking to push design. I feel very confident now in this position. So I really want to explore design ideas. So to get to do it on this film was a miracle. And I've always felt that I've sort of had this sort of this great luck and opportunity throughout my career, starting back in Los Angeles and the wonderful people of LA who really helped me. And this is just another chapter. And I think what led to it was really trying The Greatest Showman, which a friend of mine was directing, Michael Gracie, and he said, "Why don't you just come and give it a go?" And I said, "Well, I've never done a musical." And then that led, sometime later to Wonka, which then led to Wicked. So everything had been building to sort of really take on fantasy, within this musical. So I feel privileged that, and John Chu and Mark Platt are just two wonderful people. And it was great. I mean, everything came together. I think looking back, because when you're in the thick of it, you're just sort of dealing with a lot of day-to-day stuff. But looking back, you realize that everyone on that film was really, really working towards a common goal to deliver something to audiences. And it was quite special. And I realized it just doesn't happen very often. So fantastic.
Well, yeah, I mean, just to look at it, Nathan, everyone was so operating at the top of their game in that, I think it might have even surprised the people behind the film that it was as huge a success as it was. But those of us who saw it and loved it were not surprised. I mean, but as a designer, you must have just been like a kid in a candy store having an opportunity. You're building sets for Emerald City and Munchkin Land. Geez, your Emerald City was just astounding.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest of all the set. I mean, they were all difficult in their own unique way, but the Emerald City was definitely one that I sort of parked for a long time. So I like to park, some more difficult design elements. So you just sort of engage with it slowly and you sort of let it gestate in the back of your brain, because you have to find it. So it was the first thing we started and the last thing we solved. So it's designed because you can't, there's so many pitfalls. There's like, you can run into Art Nouveau, Beaux Arts, the Disney Castle. There's so many things that you have to watch out. And ultimately it's got to be this Emerald City. The story dictates that there's a sort of weird falseness to it because the wizard's an illusionist, and he's the man behind the curtain. So that's a very hard balance to get, falseness into a film set that looks believable to the audience. And so that was a tricky thing. But I think we got there through really sort of investigating sort of what would be a magical city. And I sort of I've worked in Chicago a lot, and I've always been fascinated by the white city that was built for the exposition of 1893, and it was the dream. Once you think of the Emerald City as the place you dream to go, you sort of find a way in, so that was the sort of the start of it, and then it was finding the shapes. It's very asymmetrical. I wanted three towers. Each of them had to flow and move from solidity to transparency in the upper towers. So I still like it. Often with
As
design,
well you should.
I'm
No,
pretty proud.
it's beautiful. What was that the most challenging set? So that was the most challenging set to create.
Yeah, design wise, there's two things design has to think about it. It's the design and then the methodology because, John and Mark really wanted to be more practical. So did Universal. We wanted to be more in camera, practical sets, which I love, of course. I've been doing them my entire career. Uh, that complicates issues because you're running in timelines that you need enough time to manufacture these big sets. And you can't rely on post-production below 35 feet. So you really, and you have to give, I mean, my strong belief is you give enough photographic real textures as high as you can. So then CGI, which is plenty of in this film, can then understand the materiality of things and the light play on real surfaces, and that really helps them extend. So there's a strong methodology to design, and then there's design itself where you really have to push. You mustn't stop. You have to try and push as far as you can to try and find something new for the audience, because the audience needs to be surprised and fall in love with it, but not be but in a weird way not bounce against it, or you've got to tempt them in. You've got to tempt them with nostalgia. You have to tempt them with beauty, and then so the backgrounds sort of go into the backgrounds, and we look at Glinda and Elphaba, and we concentrate on the characters of our story, which I think, I mean, there's parts of that film that still knock my socks off. When you arrive at the Emerald City and you go through, one short day into Wizardmania, I'm astounded. It was good. It's good. I could watch that 30-minute sequence many over and over.
It's just such a feast for the eyes. You should be blown. I mean, I could see that film 20 times and it would blow me away the
Yeah.
same way you're just describing it. Um,
Yeah.
and so much great hands-on creativity. I know you just mentioned CGI and that it was fairly extensive. Did it what was there was it how significant was it, the CGI or AI that came into play?
Well, there's no AI.
No AI. Good.
No IA. IA
I
is
know
no.
that's gotten to be a nasty term.
There's no AI because really we actually made it over a year and a half ago, both films. So it was really last year that AI kicked off. So it really wasn't a tool that we were using at all. But the CGI, obviously we've got animals, there's all this digital work and character stuff, which is very complicated for our visual effects guys. So if we can take the burden off the backgrounds by building them for real, we can hopefully sort of assimilate real places, digital characters, and we can sort of blend to an extent that the audience sort of goes with you and believes it. And so there's that balance, I think, is critical. So Pablo and his team and my art department, we would, talk through how high we could go. If we could get it in camera, we would always get it in camera. Uh, and we grew the tulips for real, so we know how they react to weather. We know what they look like under big clouds. I mean, in the second film, you'll see the yellow tulips, and you'll feel the sort of danger because the weather is changing. So doing things practically can give you unexpected results on the filming day, which can make things more interesting or just push you in a different direction. Like you have your plan, but when you go into your filming day, but sometimes the elements of nature changes things a little bit and can be in a great way. So yeah, I mean, what a perfect mix for me of big build. I mean, the tradition of musicals was always the MGM musicals. You build a giant backlot, and I feel like we really took that tradition, and I think you feel it in the film. It feels like an old MGM musical, So and that to me is quite special, and I think that's the nostalgia I'm talking about. The audience has a nostalgia for an old school musical. So hopefully we touch something in everyone.
I hadn't even thought of that in old MGM musical, but you're right. I mean, there are certainly elements of that, the excitement and just the vibrancy on screen.
Yeah.
Um, um, and so again, yeah, I know you worked on Wicked and Wicked for Good simultaneously. How many years was this? 2 years? How long, including post and everything else?
Oh, I mean, God, where are we now? 25. So 24 was all post. We had to go back and do a bunch of pickups because of the strike in the beginning of 24. 23 was all shoot. And then 22, we were prepping. So it's a long time.
So this is at least 3 years of your life.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's two, because I'm not. I go into post production and I consult, but I'm very not very often.
That's basically your job is done at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they come to me and say, "Hey, we're having trouble with this part of Emerald City, and we need to figure out how we get this geography." And we help them out. We go to see Pablo and we help out. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just wish there was we could do it all again.
Well, how often, Nathan, do you come out of a job thinking, wow, I want to do that all over again? I would imagine there's huge relief, but here you're like, oh my God, no, I want to experience that.
Yeah, I think we've all been spoiled because nothing will live up to that experience. And I think it means a lot. I look back on it and it's like, I think we were pushing the design as far as we could. So I really look back with love for the experience. So
Wow, that's great. No, I mean, that's great to hear. Where did your job as production designer and visual effects begin? I know we talked about it a little bit already, but it seemed like you guys worked in real tandem.
yeah, they know beginning or end. We with Pablo, it was like, okay, we got Shiz, we've got a real river to take the boats up to Shiz. We know we like these cliffs, these white cliffs. So I need Pablo to take my entrance and extend the white cliffs, but we take real photography from the southern cliffs of England. And then that leads you into a giant water tank. And then we step out of the water tank into the courtyard, which is all linked. So we're going up to about 55 feet. So it's all real backgrounds, all need augmentation or top ups, depending on the frame and the lens size. But so the information is always there of how to do it. And then we provide an enormous amount of sort of three-dimensional models and illustrations to show the VFX, all the textures and all the way roofs work. It's always roofs. Um, and those houses, I know those houses from years and years of working. So I can often speak to them. So there's this sort of it's a weave of reality and CGI, that we have to get a balance. And then the editor, really, if like you're cunning, you start with real photography in a real place, in a real location, you go into some CGI, you pull back and you edit in and out of, real to CGI. And I think the audience then doesn't doesn't question it. So it's every HOD has to be part of that
Mhm.
symbiotic mixture. Um, and and that's when you achieve that, I think you make a seamless film. And then we're looking at the wonderful actors, you know, in
Uh,
Oz. I mean, the question for me, probably to you, is did you feel you were in Oz when you were watching it? Did you
no
question?
question. Oh my God, you're transported as a member of the audience. You're immersed, and that really is such a credit to you and to John Chu and the entire team. And in fact, that brings me in to ask, what was it like working with John Chu? Did he give you a totally free hand to do what you do best?
Yeah, I mean, John is yeah, he's a very talented man, and he's a humble man, and he's generous. So he kind of says, I need something new, I want something whimsical, I want something colorful, I want to be astounded, and then so really he gives you the play space to find this for him. And then he's with me a lot, especially in pre-production. So we go and look at stuff, and he has things that he likes, and we try and sort of amalgamate things together. Um, and then he gives me all this uh, space to work in, and it's not challenged. It's such an enjoyment because he comes in and he makes it even better, which is the bit I like the most. And then I have this crew I've been working with for 20 years, and they construction crew, and they're sculptors and painters and scenics. We can build anything. And so John and Mark Platt and Universal, Donna Langley, allowed me to build them everything. Because we have the crew, we've been doing it for a long time, and these people they let me do it, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, they're smart to let you. You're a seven-time Oscar nominee. You know what you're doing at this point. And in fact, a lot of what you've done up to this point was with Christopher Nolan. What a working relationship you have with that genius. How did that begin? I know you've done The Dark Knight and Dunkirk and Interstellar and so many movies with him. You go back to the mid 2000 decade.
Yeah, to Insomnia. We met on, I was finishing a film called Behind Enemy Lines, and he was looking for a designer to go to Canada with him on Insomnia. And we met, and then we realized we grew up in the same neighborhood. He was younger than me, but I knew his brother. So, and we knew all the pubs. You have a sort of neighborhood connection, and even though we didn't know each other, but I knew his house. So
So he was kind of a neighborhood guy, and you guys hooked up.
yeah, and then we just got on. We had it was a brilliant, nearly it was 18 years of filmmaking, and it was all in camera because he loves IMAX, and you have to do it in camera because you lose so much quality. So my whole career has been, we always do it, we always build it. So if to apply that to fantasy and a musical, was like, wow, you can really apply physical filmmaking to this format, and it does work. So as I always say, it took every film we've ever done to make Wicked. So, and I say that about every complicated film. And if it's not complicated, um,
It's not
it's
challenging.
it's not challenging, and you've got to I like it when it's in your mind and it's this puzzle and you're trying to find a way through it. And there's no sort of start or end. It's much more of it's a three-dimensional design challenge that, the pieces are all trying to connect. And you're throwing this jigsaw puzzle in the air, and you have to see patterns as it lands. And and you find themes, and you find it by investigating it. And that's the joy of production design. And quite frankly, a lot of the time when I don't haven't worked with Christopher Nolan, people think I'm mad. So they're saying, "What, you want to plant 9 million tulips?" It's like I can't explain to you. There's a feeling that we need. There's a feeling in that field, and there be some organic, creative, and a natural element that will give us a good starting point on how we intend to move forward. Um, and so they let me, and it was like we found the farmer, brilliant location manager. It's also to do with people. You get
Mhm.
people who love doing things, and they put something in it. The farmer was the biggest fan of Wicked we ever met. So, and uh, and he was a passionate tulip farmer, and there were just every little element becomes something. So design is not a linear path. So you have to look and be open to everything.
Well, I think we're going to leave things there. Wicked is streaming on Prime Video. Uh, Nathan Crowley, best of luck at the Oscars on March 2nd. I know you're going for your first win on your seventh nomination. I think you're overdue. And
Thank
so
you.
let's win this thing this time. And thanks for joining us today, Gold Derby.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ray.